Ba cheannaire Tony Hanahoe lehasí láir bhleath clia a ré organ na seachtaidí.
Oh, lovely pass into Tony Hanahoe. And the first goal of the day is found by Tony Hanahoe for Dublin.
This is Tony Hanahoe, the captain of the Dublin team.
Bei Hanahoe Harain eile a chuir grí plan raibh lóide Kevin Heffernan, plan a dahragan felge dó, a chadag Hanahoe and Timiroir Celte a bubble.
Tony Hanahoe playing a captain's part for Dublin, surely. Ball on the run now is Tony Hanahoe. Tony Hanahoe holds the Sam Maguire Cup high.
Dás Tony Hanahoe suas anna chóngrucht an barc meach idir bhrisise crí agus Laochra an anda.
Well, I lived in Clontarf. I used to get the bus in, or I'd walk in as far as Fairview. I'd come up Clonleaf Avenue, which is over there. And normally what I do remember is that I would be there even before the gates opened. Well, one of the most impressive athletes I ever saw, irrespective of what game was being played here, was 1972 when I saw Muhammad Ali fight here in Croke Park. He fought a guy called Al Blue Lewis, and he was a very impressive athlete at that time. I mean, we were all small boys in those days, and I used to try and come to Croke Park every day, every Sunday, irrespective of who was playing. I do remember there was one other little guy that used to be there in his gabardine coat, which he laughs at now, but it's a fact. And I met him later on when he joined me in school, and I met him later on when he was on the Dublin team, playing number 14, Mr. Keaveney.
Yeah, it's funny, this is before I got to know Tony. Matching Croke Park, we'd probably be down there an hour before the game would start, or possibly an hour before Croke Park was opened. But Tony from 12 years up, because you would see he had star quality, whether it was football or hurling, and he was an exceptionally good hurler as well, like he played in the county hurling for Dublin as well. But you always knew he was a winner, he was a leader. And from the day I met him, even up to now, I still feel the same way, and that's the impression he'd give anybody.
Our life together is so
Dala Moran dubs óga eile, but a scoil bhuire in Marino a hastig Tony na cluichí Gaelacha.
This is a little pitch that we all started off on. Gael Driscoll, Jimmy Keaveney, Sean Mullins, who's Brian's brother. The room down there was a small little room down there we used to change in, and we had these dreadful wool jerseys that were impossible to wear. To be on the school team in those days, you were an absolute hero. This is really where it all started, and none of us were to know where it would wind up or end.
Chuig na garsúin óga, díreach Reaganson go cumann na bhinsin, crílar na pelle leacht lia ag an am. Dimmer Tony a chéadach lehadóibh a greibh a chúntaí an 1963.
I can remember a lot about it. UCD had a very strong team. I remember it was played in Croke Park. I remember I was playing left half back, I think, at that time, and I remember I was taken off at half time, and I remember we lost the match.
Dúir mé leis den cléadúir mar buail de foireann na bhinsin agus ní bhein ach timpeall 7 bliain d'aois. Bhí sé go thúnta chun na imreoirí eile leis a gríosú agus agrú chun an cluiche agus an imirt ausú.
Competition was intense in Vincent's, and they were a very proud club. If you weren't prepared to abide by the rules, training and otherwise, then you just weren't considered.
Dás Tony Inís a ré únspráideach de feile léas na caigadaí agus na seacadaí, ach fethús na seachtaí ní a bheith an dromheas fell na carach.
Rih nééis seachta cethir in áíir i bhí ógamá ach i gcinám céin is cuimhlumm nach raibh mór an éfach leis an bhforann agus ní raibh mór an de lucht leanúna.
I mean, I remember playing in the early 70s when I suppose we played games and there might have been 1,000 supporters.
Hit on Rod in Lewis madale banistíocht agus madale rounóí agus madale an commas foireann agus grúpa a chur le céile a bheith an spirit a bhí an
Nobody was really interested in the training, was a fiasco, and we just went out and we played, fulfilled the fixture for Dublin. But there was no real interest in it. I remember Gael Driscoll would say, you'd be afraid to say you played with Dublin. You'd say, yeah, I can play with Vincent's all right, but you'd be afraid to say you played with Dublin. Like, the standard was that bad.
Tháinig Kevin Heffernan isteach mar bhaine stóir agus dara sé an le díon chóras tréála agus stíl nua imirthe.
Running it cleverly there to Tony Hanahoe.
Thosna an ré nuad a Heffa's army I gcuineann lú I gréibh lein an éidir 64.
It's not a bad one either. And it's in the net, a good goal.
Go be Hefo hostningen an ré Lóchin éidir 64. Le pil de fsúl, chimeardar an fel. Ach, stíl desa bhíán, ní sé go le stíl an le nuh. So skillidir leis an gaid nuair bhí gá agus ginnidir oscailtí dó féin agus lígidir don fel an glúiseachta dhéanamh seachas na himiróí bhí heag ré sé an fel a bhí dhéanamh an glúiseacht.
Looking for Tony Hanahoe and finding him also for Dublin. Tony Hanahoe just outside the 50 yards line.
Derek le Blacklia agus thugad ar aigen son ar ír choirí na héireann I bhailí.
Steve Rooney takes this kick. Oh, great kick by Rooney. Oh, ball hit the post. Martin Furlong makes a great save. Punched in there by Tony Hanahoe.
Tháinig gahrú an húntasach in éidir 64 bhí sé tráthúil domsa go raibh sais crack ionach agus go raibh dégáirí illig na cathair go mór an rá le muintear na Dubs a gnám agus le Heffa's army agus cuileáirt a bhain leis an spirit a bhí agus is trua gan le héad atmosfér agus spirit a bheith taobh hir an ar an réist.
Bun chlocht de flean Heffo a behan róla bhí lecha himachige dá cho lecha Iona Vincent Tony Hanahoe.
Now Dublin are moving. Out to Brian Mullen. He's got Anton O'Toole on his left if he sees them. He sees them. Out to Anton O'Toole. To Leslie Deegan. Deegan going into the square. If he stays in the square, he could be pulled down. Hanahoe sends it high, sends it over the bar.
It was a lonely plan as it turned out. I spent many lonely days. The idea was that I was to open up the defence and I was to be available as the hit man.
He goes away with it.
Mine was kind of a negative role to take out the opposition centre half back and leave a big hole down the middle of the defence.
Sto an rud a chuig go bhaimórm agus mé fiú óga gin am sin an bailach raibh an chuid spáis fácha idir Lárna Parke agus na lán tosathe ag Hanahoe ag an am sin. Ar ná bhí mé óga má agus ní hiic méid déireach an tactic a bhí imirtige.
We tried a lot of people and we couldn't do it. I wasn't disciplined to rule myself out of the game for the sake of the team, but Tony was. Like, Tony was done it to a T and everybody knew what he was doing, but they weren't able to cop onto it.
And it's all over. The referee is calling for it. It's all over. And Dublin have won.
When you were a team like Dublin that hadn't won anything for years, to knock out an All-Ireland champion of 2 years past was a significant victory. And at that stage, we began to really believe that there was something happening.
Dog plan Heffo go raibh Blacklia a gluthe canis lion den géadúir le 9 líana. Agus bhí buint nach beag I gcead dúrach Tony Hanahoe le buan na Dubs.
Gives it out to Brian Mullen.
Bhí sé ná an cluthe a léamh. Bhí sé cluthe a háin. Cluthe de fsúil, léir sé de fsúile. Agus géidir sé, bhí tacticí de fsúlaige. Dréimar bhí an cluthe dul raig.
Tony Hanahoe has a chance here for Dublin.
Annig lucas ar fadán. Cosúile a scú. Ag sleanú. Ní bhófáid gimach. Fach sé níachar é bharcáil, mar cheapfága mar sé necelet. Agus céad nó bhdéile fach sé beidir fihis lá úit.
Boots that one ahead. Tony Hanahoe.
He would sacrifice himself completely to create the space or create the opportunity for somebody to achieve success, and he would do anything to achieve success. There was a steel in him and there was a hardness in him that you had to have to survive.
Galway had Tommy Joe Gilmore. He was a very strong player. He was a very good catcher. He was a very important cog in the Galway team.
This is Tony Hanahoe now for Dublin. This is David Hickey. And it is another point. A lovely move there.
And the day of the final, Tommy and I spent the day travelling every inch of Croke Park without the ball. So where I went, he went after me, and that left significant gaps in the Galway defence, but it was a lonely day for both of us.
And Jimmy high and over the bar and the lead for Dublin.
This old man, he's got.
And this is John McCarthy. Still John McCarthy. And John McCarthy sends it over.
Is an slí a risé agus an tionachar bhíige mad le Tommy Joe Gilmore hógant as an lár agus an spás sin a cruthú de daoine eile. D'orbrig an tactic sin dúin an lá sin go húntaach.
Tuis go raibh Mullins agus Brogan aclaí agus go mbeadh siad ag rit tríd an lár leis an léráid. An spás a dag Hanahoe bhí sé raus, mar bhí líonach an spás sin.
The work he did off the ball was nearly more constructive at times than what he did on the ball. You know, he always, there was always space down the middle. There was always room for Brogan to be flying through the middle, for Kevin Moran to burst up the middle. You never saw Hanahoe when they made those forward runs.
For Tony san cluiche sin shellah an léróid beidir gáir a rithe seachtó nóid for sé an léróid gáir.
No, it's not gone out. I was going to say too much of a curse. This is Tony Hanahoe.
Bhí Hanahoe rá uaireanta duine méid sin éireachta spáis a chothú ná go mbeadh sé fáca leis féin agus gninach muintear chéirí darú ir ach dúirt sin níos measana sin dhéanach muintear bhlát lé darú ir.
Tony Hanahoe. Tony trying to get up the field with it now.
It was humorous on occasions. It was certainly effective, and it was a lonely role. I'm not too sure I'd do it ever again, but it was done at that time, and it succeeded for about 6 years.
This is Tony Hanahoe near the end line. John McCarthy. Brian Mullins.
Hánamer ó átíar gúilte chun an craobh a bhuacant leistigh de sé mé.
It was kind of unbelievable that we actually won it.
And the crowd getting ready to invade the pitch here.
And I remember one time being down in the forecourts, and as you know, there are a lot of policemen in the forecourts, and one orderly said to me, "You hardly think, Tony, you're going to be in the Dublin are going to be in the All-Ireland final." And it was humorous, you know what I mean, because we didn't.
He's heading off the field. He's blown the whistle, and the game is over.
Bé seo an chiad cheann de bhór an cluiche canis ina rimmer Tony. In 1975 bhí Blacklíosach le ceannis a ríist, agus iad a gcuine na fórne a bear riamhbéidir I bhí go círaí, an chiad chluthe das na sécín a bheith chatartha.
Going back, I suppose, to 55, there was a great tradition there of rivalry. They both played the same type of open yet hard and tough and honest kind of football.
Tony postile benno hirí. So ceapan gur áling Tony lánach a clesan hí sa géirí diggin.
Back to Tony Hanahoe.
Ach an 1975 tugadh grad a ceart de Blacklí.
Danger for Dublin there. The ball breaking loose on the wing. It's a goal! Mickey Sullivan is out and he's outside, up and he's left. He's decided to take a shot himself, but he sends it over. And Kerry are the champions. And the Dublin followers numbed into silence by the brilliance, the absolute brilliance of a Kerry team who outmaneuvered and outsped this Dublin team of champions.
After the final in 75, there is no doubt we were very disappointed. And I would say almost immediately we began to plan and train for the All-Ireland final in 1976.
And so the great moment has come, the climax of the football season of 1976.
Generally speaking, by the time 76 came around, between Dublin and Kerry at that time, it was the team that made the first fatal mistake that usually lost the game.
Paudie O'Shea. This is Pat O'Neill for Dublin. David Hickey. Jimmy Keasley. Oh, lovely pass into Tony Hanahoe. And the first goal of the game, a point by Tony Hanahoe for Dublin.
Great dedication to the last
And
year
here it is again, Tony
win
Hanahoe
back this
getting that
trophy
delightful pass from Jimmy
for
Keasley.
Dublin.
Coming out to make it.
I'd like to congratulate the great spirit, sportsmanship and dedication of a great team, the Kerry team.
He was such a handsome man, people would never realise that there was such a steed behind those features. The command and the respect that Tony had from his fellow players was amazing. Some people run away from responsibility. He loved responsibility. And when Kevin Heffernan became unwell, you know, the way he stepped into the breach and just ran the squad and ran the team.
Sa bhliain 1967 agus gar 8 mbliana fichead, tháinig Tony Gorbucht ar Kevin Heffernan mar bhainisteoir ar an Black Lia.
This is Tony Hanahoe, the captain of the Dublin team, one of the selectors and team managers since last November too. Ahead, Bobby Doyle.
Another bhí anna himúir faoi ná gur bheith sé mar imreoir, bhí sé mar chaptain, bhí sé mar chraonálaí, agus bhí sé mar bhainisteoir ar an bhfoireann an bhliain sin.
That's John Egan, he has a chance at the goal!
The team were behind my nomination to take over the manager.
So there it is, it's all over, and Kerry are the National League champions, taking the title away from the holders, Dublin.
As I say, I didn't have much time. It was a very closely knit group, and just the introduction of an outsider wouldn't have worked. So it had to be an insider. It could have been a poison chalice, it could have been an opportunity. I didn't get any time to think about it, and I took it. I said, yes, okay, I was prepared to do it.
Tony made decisions on our behalf prior to him becoming manager when he was captain. So it made no difference at all, and all the players got on well with him, and all the players knew if they wanted to talk, they'd go up and talk to Tony. He'd listen to anybody. So I don't think he had a problem there. Everything was very smooth.
Yes, I was playing, and I was captain, and I was manager, and I was a selector. There are a lot of roles in there, and your next question is, did that put any pressure on me? And the answer is yes, it put extreme pressure on me.
Bhí bheith sna sesiún tréála, agus bhí bheith ag tús an grúpa a gcónaí, agus bhí gach rud a bhí gach duine eile a dhéanamh, bhí an brú siúd iad dhéanamh thar ar aus.
Annach chud peledáirí nuair a bhíon brúire tepin ortha tepin ar an misneach tepin ar an éifocht atá cup de bhar an aspa bhisnig sin ach le Tony Hanahoe níor tharla sé sin ní caiileach sin blach nuair a bhí brúire agus brúd ulmhóra sin credim hen.
Ní dólam go bhfeice míad le héad a sin a rís mar just ní bheith aon duine sásta dhéanamh.
I mí meán fór fe chinreach Tony, thug Black Lia aigear ard vacha ag glutha ceannis na hÉireann.
After we beat Kerry in the semi-final, our great danger was that people would sit back and say, well, that's it, we've won now. I remember working very hard to keep the team in control and keep their feet on the ground and remind them that we had to play Armagh, we had to beat Armagh, and the title wasn't won until we had beaten Armagh.
The ball is in, the game is on. What the rain has done, these players skidding all over the place. Jimmy Keefe, a goal! Oh, what a goal! A goal! Little Bobby Doyle. And that's a goal by Bobby Doyle. Here it comes to Anton O'Toole, John McCarthy, and it's another goal. It's another goal. And now it's Brian Mullins, and now it's Jimmy Keefe, and another goal! Out to Joe Kernan. Joe on the 14-yard line, a shot, and it's a goal! Across to Joe Kernan, and it's another goal! David Hickey, Anton O'Toole, Bobby Doyle, and it's another goal!
When we took the field that day, I remember I was physically and psychologically exhausted. And I was very relieved when the game was over and we'd won it.
Referee calling for the ball, and the game is over, and Dublin are All-Ireland champions! And this will be the 10th time in history that a captain will captain All-Ireland winning teams on 2 consecutive years. Tony Hanahoe joining the greats of the past.
Tony Hanahoe, the captain, was an anticlimax, Tony.
No, indeed, it was not, Mick. I wasn't satisfied, or I didn't relax until the last whistle went, and I'm glad we won it. It's the culmination of a lot of hard work over a year. I thought Armagh put up a tremendous fight on occasions, and
I'm glad we regained the title, and I'd like to thank all the boys for the tremendous work they put into it, together with my fellow selectors, Donald and Laochra.
What about when Armagh got those 2 goals in the second half from Joe Kernan?
Well, we'll have a chat about that next Tuesday.
Bobby Doyle here. When did you score 2 goals before, Bobby?
I don't think I ever scored them before.
Brian Mullen, Bernard Brogan for Dublin.
Looking for trouble.
This is Tony Hanahoe.
An bhliain dar giún an 1968, thug fir na príomhchatharach aige na seannaide an riocht den 3 bliana sa chéile.
Mullins is still stretched from the far side of the field. Jimmy Gina had tripped. Jack O'Shea. Shoulder to shoulder.
Paddy Cullen had a bit of a niggle with Ger Power, which I think should have been a free-in for Kerry, and the referee missed it. A couple of minutes later, a similar thing happened, but Ger Power was the instigator.
It's deflected out, and it's gone very near the end line. Paddy Cullen going out for it. And Paddy Cullen. Oh dear.
Shane Salters gave a free-in. Robbie Keller picked up the ball, handed it to Mikey Sheehy. The referee's back was to the play. For all Seamus always knew, Mikey could have kicked it out of his hands into the back of the net.
Paddy Cullen, a judge. Oh, a goal in the greatest streak of all time. The referee gave a free to...
He put it down to the quick kick and it went in, and the referee allowed the goal. Now, we didn't see it, and I don't think the goal should have been allowed. And secondly, I don't think it should have been a free at all. And even to this day, Mikey Sheehy will say, well, he was blessed to get away with it.
Tigam Gael namely is fehed imeha owned le sin ach an lá sin agus na hactri har an lá sin Gael she'd come over and looked hockey at the blot lia Niwan Grev ladas ein chush narcor go mech an cool cadahe ach the var an bavak go yarn sin multor there and glihe o who's there an lá sin.
The equivalent gear after Hannam Lienta. O lawn buli crew tuko agus glaka. Ach fós dan an caradas. Agus sinan príomhú a stelm sa tá cuman le Luach les Gael. An caradas a chrohín sé der ghine.
Vincent Brown contacted me, I remember, and he said he wanted to do some kind of an article on the match. He obviously detected that I felt strongly about what went on. I didn't make any secret of what I felt about some of the decisions that were made. Certain members on high of the association took great umbrage, and I was called before I think it was the GAC at the time, and we spent 4.5 hours arguing about whether I was entitled to say it or not. I decided that I wasn't going to back down on it, that I said it because I meant it, and I was suspended.
Nuair a léir Tony Hanahoe mac agus méidir í a dúirt sé faoin multar an lá sin. Bhí takeíocht an láidir agus forla hanige I meas cuismhainter agus lucht takeíochta ar an fella blát lia ag gnám.
Chud an béim a chur muinter na pápéirí agus na cápéisi ná gur bé an céadúir a bhí imróir in an cás a chur chun cín ag ceistú Tionachar réitor cluthe táhachtach.
A turne óg muínecha ba Hanahoe, cheiste sé chosc agus dimmer sé de bhleaclí an lá ar giún. Is a son a dasgur cás Hanahoe.
According to the diktat of the association, having played that day, I remember the referee saying to me, I didn't expect to see you here today. Having played that day, then I automatically incurred another 6 months. So I was then suspended for 7 months.
Is toch grev biogan in kaint agus smína ver go raimid strike agus nach im romid cluhi ara godi gur ardiak on pinos.
Eventually, Central Council overruled the management committee, as I understand it, and I was reduced to back to a month's suspension. And that was, well, it wasn't the end of it, but that was the end of it officially anyway.
When all the dark clouds Bobby Doyle. This is Tony Hanahoe.
Be Tony Hanahoe an chéadine Hispáin nach bhéad fí talamh sláán dhéanam de miróirí. Deir sé as a beile de chunta an 1969 I miróir le hínclucht le fís agus le dúracht a chintig gymach rá bhleac lia I réoga Pelleroibh.
Well, the chance Yet it comes from the sky.